In the last video, we schlepped from Adam to Abraham using the numerical information in the book of Genesis. In this video, we will take the second leg of the journey from Abraham to the Promised Land. And keep watching to the end of this video because we have some bonus material which is just like, it's pure gold if like me, you're super interested in this stuff. So buckle up and let's begin. All right, we can follow the same pattern as in the last video. When Abraham was 100 years old, he had Isaac. Then when Isaac was 60 years old, he had Jacob. Now we are told in Genesis chapter 47, verse 9, that Jacob was 130 years old when he and his family entered into Egypt. This is supported by Genesis 47, verse 28. Jacob lived in Egypt 17 years, and the years of his life were 147. Now we are told there were 430 years from when God chose Abraham to the Exodus out of Egypt. The Apostle Paul confirms this in Galatians 3, verses 16 and 17, where God gave Abraham his promise, and then 430 years later, God gave the law, or the 10 Commandments, at Mount Sinai. And if you've watched our video on Moses and the 10 Commandments, you may remember the Israelites reached Mount Sinai about 7 weeks after the Exodus, so in the same year, in other words. In Exodus chapter 12, verses 40 to 41, 430 years is the time the Israelites were away from home, so to speak, their sojourning. From the day Abraham left Haran right up to the Exodus, to the very day, was 430 years. And this is the same period that Paul talked about, from when God gave his promise to Abraham up to when God gave the 10 Commandments at Mount Sinai. In Genesis chapter 12, when God told Abraham to leave his country, he also blessed Abraham and gave his promise that he would become a great nation and many people would be blessed through him. So now we can pull it all together. From Abraham to Isaac is 100 years, then it's 60 years to Jacob, and then 130 years to Jacob and his family entering Egypt. Now remember that 2,083 years after Adam, Abraham left his home. And then 430 years later is the Exodus from Egypt, which means the Exodus happened 13 years from Adam. For the record, this is 1457 BC. Then after 40 years of wandering, the Israelites enter the Promised Land under Joshua. And Numbers chapter 14, verse 34 says, the reason the Israelites were given 40 years of wandering was because they had sinned against God. But hey, they eventually enter the Promised Land 2,553 years from Adam. And that's a milestone moment. And hey, that's the end of the second leg of the journey. So congratulations, if you've worked through these calculations or actively followed the logic. It's hard yakker, there's a lot of numbers here. Now, those of you who like me are fascinated with this stuff, I have some bonus material to share. As Jack Reacher says,
in an investigation, details matter.
So I have 3 details for you. Sort of like 3 checkpoints or 3 cross-checks on our analysis. A way of marking your own homework. And these are the periods of 400 years, 430 years, and about 450 years. So remember in Acts chapter 13, verses 17 to 20, there were about 450 years from when God chose the fathers to the Promised Land. So from 2,107 years to 2,553 is 446 years. Notice Acts 13, verse 20 says about 450 years. And you'll see in the next video, it took the Israelites 7 years to conquer and divide the land. So really it's between 446 years to 453 years. So, about 450 years sounds right. Secondly, in Genesis 15, verse 13, God tells Abraham his descendants would be mistreated 400 years. Now that mistreating began in Genesis 21, verse 9, when Abraham's wife Sarah saw the son of Hagar mocking her son Isaac. And this was just after Isaac had grown a little and was weaned. Now in Galatians chapter 4, verse 29, Paul confirms this story where we read, at that time the son born in the ordinary way persecuted the son born by the power of the Spirit. Here he's talking about Hagar's son persecuting Sarah's son Isaac. So working backwards 400 years from the Exodus would be 2113, which puts Isaac at around 6 years old, which sounds right. Thirdly, the 430 years, we've already seen this applied two ways. From when God gave Abraham his promise to when God gave the 10 Commandments at Mount Sinai, or the period from when Abraham left his home to the Exodus. Just so we're clear, the 430 years is the period from 2083 to 2513 years from Adam. So these three details can be reconciled to the timeline as checkpoints. And so, our calculations are 100%, which is kind of nice. It's a nice assurance. I've received several messages from viewers who have gone through the calculations and confirmed they got the same dates, and that's nice to know. And that's a community. That's what a community is all about. That's what family is about. Being there for each other, sharing ideas, support, feedback, constructive criticism, and checking our analysis if you're good with numbers.
And that's, to me, I think it's got to be why we're all here, right? We're all here to be very connected to each other and human and try to really understand what that is, not to gain things and awards and, Yeah. So I look forward to finding new things to work on and yeah, absolutely.
All right, I'm gonna grab some grub and watch another episode of Attack on Titan. It's my #1 anime right now. In the next video, we'll schlep through the time of the judges. All right, I'm out of here. Bye.